Fifth grade, chapter 7, lesson 9, multiply mixed numbers. Unlock the problem. 1/3 of a 1 1/4 acre park has been set aside as a dog park. Find the number of acres that are used as a dog park. So first of all, they're asking us, is the area of the dog park less than or greater than the area of the 1 1/4 acre park? So like we've already learned when we talk about equal to, greater than, or less than, what are they comparing? They're doing the 1 1/4. So what are we actually looking at? The 1/3. And then we, oh, I forgot to, okay, there we go. So they're talking about the 1/3. And we've learned that if it's 1, it's equal to. If it's less than 1, it's less than. And if it is more than 1, it is greater than. So 1/3 would be less than. So this is one way that they said that you can set up multiplying mixed numbers. Shade the model to represent the whole park. So we're looking at the 1/3, right? So we're going to shade the 1 1/4, right? They already broke our pieces into 4 size pieces. So how many of the first rectangle do I need to color in? All of it. And since you guys are just using your pencil, you need to lightly color in all of it, right? Then how much of the next rectangle am I going to color in? One. Just one box, right? 1/4. So the whole park is what, guys?
1 1/4 acres.
1 1/4 acres. Double shade the model to represent the part of the park that is a dog park. So how much of it is a dog park? 1/3. So we're going to have to break that section that we just colored into how many parts?
Thirds.
Into thirds. So do I break the whole thing into thirds or just the part I colored?
Just part you color.
Okay, just the part I colored. Or we could do the whole thing, but will I color the whole thing? No, just the part I colored. So I'm going to use a different color, but you guys are going to shade darker, right? And then how much of that am I going to color? Just one section of it, or 1/3 of it. And just the part that I lightly shaded, not the whole thing, right? So how many parts does each rectangle show? So how many parts did we break each of those rectangles into overall? 12, right? Because there's 3 going this way and there's 4 going that way. So we broke it into 12 parts. What fraction of each rectangle is shaded twice? So how many did we shade twice? We have how many here? How many? We have 5 total, but how many do we have just in this rectangle? 4. So 4 12ths, right? And then of the second rectangle, how many did we color in?
1/12.
1/12, or double color in, darker color in. So what fraction represents all the parts which are shaded twice? So we had 4 12ths plus 1 12th, which gets us what?
5 12.
5 12ths. So 5 12ths of an acre has been set aside. They said another way is to rename the mixed number as a fraction. So they're renaming it as what type of fraction, guys?
Improper.
As an improper fraction. And that's what we've kind of been working with, or what I've shown you guys so far, right? Okay. So write the mixed number as a fraction greater than 1. And we just said that was an improper fraction. So what am I going to put here to show that I'm making it improper? A little multiplication sign and a little plus sign. So 4 times 1 is
4.
plus 1 is
5.
so this becomes
5
5/4. And then like we've learned already, we take 1/3 times 5/4 and we get 1 times 5 is 5 and 3 times 4 is 12. So 1/3 times 1 1/4 is 5 12. Example 1, rename the whole number. Multiply 12 times 2 and 1/6. Write the product in simplest form. Step 1, determine how the product will compare to the greater factor. So 12 times 2 and 1/6 will be something of 12. So you're kind of canceling out your 12s, right, guys? And we're looking at what? We're looking at 2 and 1/6, and then we need to decide, is that going to be equal to, less than, or greater than? So which one?
Greater than.
Greater than, because 2 and 1/6 is more than 1. Okay, so over here they already set it up, and they said 12 times 2 and 1/6, and now they're going to break it apart to make it a little easier. So what would 12, it'd be 12 over 1, right, since it's a whole number, times, now they made 2 and 1/6 into an improper fraction. So how do I get 2 and 1/6 into an improper fraction? What do I put first?
Multiplication sign and addition.
My multiplication sign and my addition sign. So what do I do?
6 times 2, which
6 times 2, which
is 12.
is 12, plus 1
13.
is 13. So now I'm going to take 12 times 13. What is 12 times 13?
156.
156. How did you guys quickly get that?
Because 12 times 12 is 144.
And
12 is 156.
okay, so if you know your multiplication facts, you can do one you know and then just add 12 more. So 156 divided by 6 equals, now, what have I shown you guys before we get started? Could we have technically simplified this before we got started? Yes. So we could have technically made this a 6 or this a 1 and this a 6 or a 2, right? Okay. So we could have simplified and then we wouldn't have had quite as big a number, or we would have already been ready to go, right? Okay. But how many times does 6 go into 156? So how many times does 6 go into 15, guys? 26 times. So 6 goes into 6 once, and 6 goes into 156 26 times. So how many times does 1 go into 26? 26. And like I was telling you guys, if we would have simplified this, and this would have been a 1, and that would have been a 2, 2 times 13 would be 26. And so we would have already been at this point right here, right? So 12 times 2 and 1/6 is 26. Example 2, use the distributive property. Write the product in simplest form. Rewrite the expression by using the distributive property. So basically what they did was they took 16 times 4 and 1/8 and they pulled it apart, right? So they took 16 times something plus 1/8. So what needs to go on our first line there, guys? 4. Okay. Then they went ahead and grouped the 16 times 4, added, and then they grouped the 16 times what, guys? 1/8, right? So what is 16 times 4?
64.
64. And then they already have the 2 because what have you guys learned? Can we simplify before we go ahead and work out our multiplication?
Yes.
Yes. So what they just did is they went ahead and crossed out, and they said what went into both 8 and 16? 8. So 8 goes into 8 once. 8 goes into 16 twice. So 64 plus 2 is 66. So 16 times 4 and 1/8 is 66. Number 1, explain why you might choose to use the distributive property to solve example 2. Sometimes it is easier to break the problem into smaller problems and then add them together. Number 2, when you multiply two factors greater than 1, is the product less than, between, or greater than the two factors? When we multiply factors greater than 1, their product will be greater than the two factors. Share and show. Find the product. Write the product in simplest form. So what they did was they went ahead and converted them into what, guys? Improper fractions. So what do I need to do to show that?
Multiplication and addition signs.
So what is going to be my first improper fraction of that one? So 3 times 1 is
3.
3 plus 2 is,
5.
so 5/3. What's my next improper fraction? 5 times 3 is,
15.
plus 4 is,
19.
so what is, technically we could do 5 times 19, but can I simplify beforehand? Yes, so I'm going to cross this out. What goes into both of those? 5, so 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 5. So 1 times 19 is,
19.
and then 3 times 1 is 3. Now, is that in simplified form?
No.
No. So how many times does 3 go into 19?
6 times.
6 times. So 6, and then what do I have left over?
1/3.
1/3, because 6 times 3 is 18. 19 minus 18 is 1, and then we keep our same denominator, right? On number 2, they went ahead and set up a picture. So, am I going to shade the half part first, or am I going to shade the 1 1/3 part first?
1 1/3.
The 1 1/3. And since you guys aren't using different colors, you need to lightly shade in how much of the first one? All of it. And then how much of the second one? 1 piece of the 3 pieces. Now you're going to darkly shade in how many? Half. So we're going to break these into half, and then we're going to shade in the lightly shaded ones that we have already done, but only half of them. So how many total pieces were each of those boxes broken into? How many pieces? 6, right? So you're going to have 6 as your denominator. How many did you color in?
4, 6.
You colored in 4 of them, so there's 4 that are darkly shaded. Is that in simplest form?
No.
No. What could 4/6 be in simplest form, Ashley?
2/3.
2/3. Use the distributive property to find the product. So they want us to do 16 times 2 1/2. So we learned with distributive property, you do what to one of the numbers? You pull it apart, right? Okay. So we're going to have 16 times parentheses. What am I going to put in my parentheses? 2 plus 1/2. Then I'm going to do a new set of parentheses. What am I going to do in that first set of parentheses? 16 times 2 plus 16 times what? 1/2. So what is 16 times 2, guys? 32. I'm going to have 32 plus, and then we have 16 times 1/2. So I can put the 16 over what, guys? 1. Can I simplify before I get started? Yes. So I can cross simplify. Now, what goes into both 2 and 16? 2. 2 goes into 2 how many times? Once. 2 goes into 16? 8 times. So 8 times 1 is? 8. So now my answer is 32 plus 8, which gets me 40.